What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again, and into some Escape from Tarkov action. Got a little series that we're going to get started up here, what I like to call the Lab Rat. And as you can imagine, we're going into labs, and we're going to rat it up. So I thought this would be a pretty fun series. We'll jump into the action here right away, and I'll give a little bit of background as we go through it, as well as just share some raid experiences. Trying to find a fun way to share some raids with you guys, both on stream and off stream. These first couple for this first, we'll call it part one, were off stream raids. I didn't do any voiceovers, so you're gonna hear me kind of chatting in the background about how these raids went. And for the future ones, we'll incorporate a little bit of both. Offline raids, or not offline, but off-camera raids, off-stream raids, as well as some on-stream raids. Definitely the next part two for this. We already have a couple of these raids ready to go. So welcome to the channel. If you're new, thank you for stopping in. Subscribe, like, comment. You guys know how YouTube works. It really does help us out. Thanks for all the support on the videos and all the stuff that we're doing on the channel. Links in the description if you ever want to stop by a stream, play some Escape from Tarkov with us, learn, ask any kind of questions. Love to help. Got a lot of hours in this game. Probably not as much as most other streamers, but quite a few. Probably my top played game up to this point, at least over the last probably 7 to 9 months or so. And just welcome anybody to stop by. Links in the description below. Love to hang out with you. And again, if you have questions, always here to try to help and help people learn. So a little bit of background. First of all, for this raid, so the whole premise of this series, if you're not familiar with Escape from Tarkov, if you clicked on this, you probably did. But the whole premise is basically to rat it up. So I'm jumping into labs, and I'm basically bringing pretty minimal gear, backpack, and a pistol. You could call these pistol to hero runs. You could call them whatever you want. It's just, I've chosen and I've enjoyed, the backstory to this really ends up being the fact that I've wanted to find a fun way to play labs. I've basically completed what I've hoped to complete in this portion of the wipe. I've got my Kappa, second time grabbing that. I've got all of the labs key cards up to this point. And I just wanted to find a fun way to play labs, especially considering a lot of the issues surrounding the map. Cheaters and some of the desync issues that we've got going on. I'm not diving into any of that, but labs is one of those premier PvP maps. Provides a significant challenge, specifically with the raiders, as well as provides a really good opportunity to make some money. And I wanted to find a fun way to be able to do that and kind of let my little bit of a rat side out, a little bit of my hoarder and my loot collector side out as well. So that's what this series is going to be. It's going to basically be pistol runs, minimally geared pistol runs, and just see how we can do, see if we can enjoy it. So this was the first of many. I've done this quite a bit before. I honestly really enjoy using the FN pistol and dropping raiders like I did right there. So the whole goal to outset this, as you watch a little bit of fast forward of the loot goblin in me, the whole premise of this is to try to basically upgrade the gear. I have a couple of specific things that I'm trying to do when I go into a series like this and when I go into a raid like this. Primarily being is upgrade my gear. So ideally, at least for me in labs, when I run something like this, I'm hoping to kill a raider or two. That player fight at the beginning, that guy was pretty low geared, but definitely had me outgunned from a weapon perspective. Maybe not an armor perspective, but definitely a weapon perspective. So what I fell back from that fight, and what I really wanted to do was capitalize on trying to find some raiders. Now, I pulled into that corner just to basically watch to see if that guy was going to push me. Obviously, try to get the kill at that point. He did not, and I heard raiders behind me. So I'm going to capitalize on those, was able to get those 2 kills, and then basically, as you can see here, I've upgraded the gear. I've upgraded the armor, got a better helmet, not a better backpack, but I would have had I obviously found one, or I think I did actually get a better backpack, and but most importantly, get a better gun. So I've got an MP5 now with 50 rounders. I forget what ammo, but I've basically made what I'm hoping to do in this raid, which is, again, upgrade my gear, pick up a little bit of loot. I was able to loot Green Room. Again, I do have all of the key cards. So I was able to loot Green Room. So that's really my second objective here. First objective, try to kill some raiders, or player, obviously. upgrade my gear, and then from that point I can start to kind of do a little bit of a loot run. And what I have is I have a couple of different things that I like to go for. I like to hit either green or blue simultaneously if I can. Hit black. If I spawn over by red, we're gonna hit red, and just try to make it a successful raid. I bring in very minimal items when it comes to my Kappa container as well. Bring in basically an IFACT and a hemostat and a documents case. That's it, and a spare mag for the pistol. But the whole goal is to try to fill that Kappa container up with some money-making items, mostly stims in this map is typically what I'm going to be able to end up finding, and just make sure that I can pull a little bit of money. So that was a pretty quick, easy one just to kind of set up, but we end up getting out 2 Raider kills. I think we did end up damaging that player just a little bit, probably got 1 or 2 hits on him. And we pull out a pretty nice haul. MP5, we get some Gen 4 armor, we get a nice U-lock, and a little bit of additional gear. Not full by any means, but that was successful of enough from a raid perspective. Definitely made more than enough money considering selling the stims, that it was time to just bust out of there. And I didn't feel great with the MP5, especially not having a sight on it. It's a good gun, but I really prefer it with the sight instead of iron sights. So we're going to jump into the second one. This was a much longer raid and arguably way more successful from the perspective of both raider and player kills. So again, first strategy, first 2 goals. Fill the Kappa, upgrade the gear. That's just a prime, right here is just a prime opportunity. Check for green key card. Check this. I always do try to search for additional meds because they don't bring any kind of pain meds or CMS with me or splints. So I want to try to hit one of these med rooms, pull that up if I can, and get some loot on. So we loot blue here, we get some meds, and we make a little bit of money. So goal 1/2 successful, and we're gonna keep moving on and see if we can find a little bit of action. Now, again, this was an interesting spot because that player definitely heard me and was headed this way, and I was simultaneously also headed this way. So he did a little reverse. I heard that he ran. I figured I like to, especially when I'm gonna rat it up. This is a total rat move, and very aptly named for this series, I think, which is to come up these steps, come up into these glass offices, and just spend a little bit of time listening to try to figure out where everything is on the map and what's going on. I hope this series, if you're watching it and you're maybe a little bit newer, haven't played a ton of labs, I'm hoping a couple of things that I can teach you. One, a little bit of the map awareness. I know when I was first starting out, Last White, trying to learn this game, specifically trying to learn labs. Labs is a pretty difficult map to learn, at least at the outset, because it's pretty compact, but you got the multiple floors. I'm hoping what you can learn here from me a little bit is a little bit more about the map, and I'll give you a little bit of, I'm going to say, tips and tricks to hopefully be successful. There's some pretty standardized spawn points for raiders for where they're going to come from and kind of the way that they path when they move, which is beneficial to, especially if you're trying to do kind of a zero hero run or any kind of low geared labs run, to know, because arguably it's not necessarily about the PvP, although I can get a headshot on a player with this pistol and instantly upgrade to some very significant gear. But even raider gear, for the most part, is quite good. So one of the little tips and tricks I like to do here is to actually jump up into these offices. You have a pretty good sight line straight down this top floor right in front of green, and I think that provides 2 really good opportunities. You can catch an unsuspecting player if they're not paying attention inside this room. In addition, raiders very typically are going to move across the front of green, depending on a spawn point, especially if hangar gate is open. They will even come from basically the right-hand side and up the metal steps. They can spawn in the back corner opposite of green down the hallway. They can also come in basically from below, and that's about what we're going to see. Well, not right here. That raider surprised me a little bit, but I did hear him. But he came from that opposite corner to green. And again, objective 2, pretty successful here because we're able to drop the raider, and we're going to be able to go. And here in just a second, we're going to be able to get that loot and upgrade our weapon situation. And then at that point, I played the map a little bit more freely, right? We've got a full container of some stims, a cat, some good stuff, sugars, things that sell pretty well, but also for me are pretty usable. And at this point, then I can move around a little bit more freely with a little bit better gear. So I'm hoping he had a good gun. And again, we've kind of upgraded a little bit. Obviously, still players in the map too. This is another really good thing for me from an awareness perspective. Is you've got to know what you're dealing with, and you've got to kind of, as best you can, guesstimate from what you can hear for who is left on the map, what is still out there, and kind of what you're dealing with. So I'm going to try to fast forward through this series, fast forward the loot sections, because it is all about getting the good, juicy loots. But yeah, so we've upgraded here. We've got a nice little MP7 with some APSX ammo, so that Raider definitely helped us out. We got about a mag and a half, so we're going to keep our eye on that. We still have a lot of loot to get, because we basically were only able to hit blue. And that upside office. That's the other thing about the offices that I like. Quick note on those top level glass offices. They both have a safe in them, and safes, especially with the recent patch, have gotten buffed pretty well. Flash drives, diaries, a little bit more money, some more golden, I'll call them golden and streamer items that can be found in there that sell pretty well. So I'm a big fan of hitting some safes if you don't know where to go, or like you don't have any of the keys, or maybe those rooms have been hit. The safes very, very rarely get hit here. So we looted this basically U-circle, which is the corner I was talking about that this raider that I killed probably came from. Obviously still some action going on, and then we heard this guy. We're just going to play this one patient. People don't usually sit in here, so the lab rat in us was definitely strong, even though we were pretty well geared at this point. At least from a weapon perspective, I felt a lot better. And he's pretty low geared too, but we'll be glad to take the player kill and all of this gentleman's loot. So he came in with a PP-19, so he wasn't adding to the fray very much. But again, a player down. We've heard some other players fighting. This is another room, for whatever reason, does not get looted a whole lot. Usually has some pretty good stims in it, some defuels, metal cutting scissors, and that's, again, right across from both that the elevator here as an exit, which I think we're gonna pop here in a second, as well as the steps coming all the way up to what I call the top floor. So we've got one player left. Obviously a lot of action. And I figure at this point, probably better now than ever to swing over and check green. Again, we've upgraded, got a full container, and I think it's a good opportunity to do just that. So another important note, again, if you're a newer Labs player, maybe don't play it too much for fear of kind of the whole cheaters thing going on, is to really listen closely to the elevators. Now, obviously, that one I think was still the one that we had called in. This door being open shows me that green's been hit. But it's important to listen to the elevators, especially elevators that get opened. You can see they'll say press which floor you want to be on, and then if it gets used, it will transition to say in your menu, in your exit menu, transition to say to call the elevator. That's an important note because a lot of times that means that someone, a player or two players, has exited the map. So trying to just keep kind of a mental count on exactly what you got. So we run into another raider here, who interestingly enough was being fought by another player that I could not find. And I also, for whatever reason, could not hit, which is why I like using this pistol. We take a couple of really bad shots, and we're able to get the raider finished, which is good. For the life of me, I could not find this player. And it's interesting because that grenade had gone off like really close to that raider as well. So I don't know if it was a botch grenade by the raider or if it was a grenade by the player, and it ended up exploding but not quite killing him. So we're gonna check this loot. We get an AVS. I love these things. Great if you're looking to add some additional loot capacity and space, because they hold quite a bit of stuff pretty well. Excuse me. So I'm still being very cautious over here by kind of the cafeteria and the kitchen area. Still being really cautious about that player that we definitely heard shooting. Important to note, obviously, raiders will not just fire. They're not just going to throw grenades. So anytime you hear any kind of shooting, it always designates another player on the map, other than yourself. And again, minus if the raider is actually shooting you. So we do a quick scan there. We're going to run back, check down below. I'm just trying to be really cautious here, but also trying to see if I can get a glimpse of the player, get a glimpse of any raiders, and see if we're clear to loot this bottom floor. Bottom floor has a lot of really good loot on it. Or not bottom floor, but I call it second floor. That second floor has a lot of really good loot on it. Couple opportunities for some intel, couple opportunities for key cards. So ideally, it's a very good place to go loot. That's another spot that I may just run to at the very beginning if we get an ideal spawn for it, just to be able to clear it. So we get an eye on a raider over here, take a couple of shots, don't end up getting the kill, but that tells us some important information. So this map for me, just like any map in EFT, and this game in general, information, extremely important. So being able to see, understand, know, and just know the aggression level of the raiders. Sometimes they push pretty aggressively. Other times they'll keep a little bit of their distance. It was important to get that information that guy was over there in the corner, and I had a feeling that they were still moving towards the player. They have a tendency to drift towards players to try to get those fights. I heard a little bit of metal over here. So just trying to play cautiously. And again, I'm basically down now back to my pistol. I ran out of APSX ammo. I wasn't sure if this metal was a player or raiders. This cross-section, honestly, very terrible position to sit in. But what I wanted to do was be able to hold this angle here. End up dropping another raider, luckily for us, which I anticipate was the one on metal. But also be able to look down and see what I like to call green stairs. So we upgrade here. We get ourselves a nice little, I believe, AKM or AKN. With a drum mag, which ends up having really terrible ammo in it. We throw the sight from that MP7 onto this thing because it came sightless. And again, at this point now, we've kind of upgraded the gear again. We found a better weapon, with a little bit more kick, a little bit more capacity to drop some folks. And I also have not heard very much shooting up to this point. So, like I had said, these glass offices, really good. Really, really good to be able to pick up some additional loot. Hit some safes, which are always a good source of cash. And as you can tell there, nice little flash drive. I'm a big fan. Documents case in this, comparative to a SICK case. Major reason being, there are so many opportunities for intel on this map. There's a ton of intel spawns. So you do lose out the capacity to put in dog tags. You lose out the capacity to put in a couple of items. But I would say arguably the space is very well made up for with the documents case, just in the ability to bring a couple of intel home with you, as well as obviously some cash and some coins. I think that's really beneficial, and that's a key point for me. So obviously that little key right there, that little voice line tells us that there is still another player, and then I believe very shortly after here, we hear the elevator go right there. That's it being called in. And that is it leaving. So at this point in the raid, and we have quite a few minutes left here of this. A lot of this is going to be sped up. I basically just go down to loot this floor. I do believe we fight a little bit more raiders here in just a second or two. But at this point, I feel really confident that we're the last player left on the map. which is a good position to be in. So I like to loot this bottom floor, scope around. I'm not really too interested in fighting too many more raiders, obviously because they are pretty dangerous. They can kill us. Black's been hit here. So we're just going to check our options. We've got about 20 minutes left. I do still have a good amount of space, so I want to stim up and basically just keep checking. There's a couple of intel spawns on this floor. We don't end up going in weapons testing because I hear another raider, the raider that I think I originally shot at over here, basically stayed in this corner. They have this path where they'll continue to kind of move back and forth in front of Hangar Gate right here. And a couple of whiff shots and some pretty terrible ammo makes for an interesting cocktail of not being able to kill this guy. As well as some decent armor on this raider, I believe. Thanks, PP ammo. Really, really solid. Glad I had a lot of shots from that drum mag. So we get a quick loot on this guy. We upgrade into a DT. And again, at this point, I feel pretty free from a rain perspective to move around the map. Just being really cognizant of raiders. Raiders are going to spawn at different intervals. We find our second intel here, which again, just really highlights the document case conversation. We come up, we loot, we get some pretty decent loot inside the safe, inside the manager's office there. And then basically we're going to swing over and we're going to check, I believe, red and violet just to see if they've been hit. There is another really good intel and I believe VPX. Yeah, VPX by the computer there in the folders. There's an intel spawn. There's money spawns here. This is a great office. This does get hit pretty consistently, but if you're close to this, there can be an MPX that'll spawn right by that weapons crate. But I feel really confident at this point. Players all gone. Haven't heard anything. I heard that elevator leave, which was a really good sign. And feel pretty confident that we're the last ones left, which is a great position to be in labs because it gives you some free reign of a lot of the map. And in true rat fashion, we find a dead player that had been killed by a raider, and we scoop all his loot too. He had this like very interesting 50-round Glock setup with some pretty solid ammo in it, if my memory serves me correctly, and that was enjoyable to be able to pick up. So again, check. We're gonna hit red. We're gonna check over here for another intel right there. Green key card in between those folders. Fortunately, we strike out from that perspective. We're gonna loot this crate. We loot both red and violet, and we're literally in there. Again, I'm not gonna do a ton of heavy editing, especially on the stream ones of these. I want you to be able to kind of enjoy the raid with me. But I'm pretty sure we were in red and violet for about, I want to say about 6 or 7 minutes of looting. I did a lot of unpacking, moving things around, just trying to really capitalize on my space. We ended up finding, I think, a rig inside one of the containers in violet. So we were able to get a little bit more space, just picking up weapon attachments, gold items. You know, red has a good mix of weapon attachments, gold spawns, ammo, some really solid things here. So at this point, really successful raid. Again, you could call it a pistol to hero. I definitely think we come out from a hero perspective with quite a bit of loot. But you know, to kind of wrap this one up as we close this raid out, I'm going to continue to do this. Like I said, I've already got a couple of additional episodes. We did a couple of these on stream a couple of days ago, and I've just really been enjoying this for a couple of different reasons. One of the main reasons being is this is kind of a low risk, very, very high reward. Labs kind of gets plagued with, again, a little bit of that cheater issue. I have not seen a ton of that recently. And obviously you have to buy the key card, but if you can get past the key card cost and get yourself in a position where dying in the raid, especially with just a pistol, doesn't hurt so bad, and then you can have raids like this where you come out pretty well geared and get an opportunity to get some good loot. I've really been enjoying this. So again, we'll be mixing this up. We're going to be doing this pretty consistently. If at any point you want to come over, stop by a stream, leave some comments down below if you have any questions, anything we can help with. And with that, we'll close out for this one. I've been Doc, Average Gamer Guys. As always, thanks for watching. Catch you the next one. Peace.